All right, everyone. So we found an article here on Screen Rant titled, I've already played Gears of War Reloaded, and you probably have too. Now, I haven't read this article yet, but I thought that headline was pretty interesting. So I wanted to give it a read and react to it. So we're going to do that now. So Gears of War Reloaded is bringing the beloved cover shooter to every platform under the sun. Apart from Nintendo Switch, unfortunately, and fans couldn't be happier. It follows on from another Xbox owned franchise that got a remaster in the form of Oblivion Remastered, which took the world by storm and sold millions of copies in just a handful of days. While Xbox is likely hoping for another win with a Gears of War remaster, those who are deeply familiar with the franchise may want to hold off buying it straight away. Gears of War Reloaded changes certainly seemed appealing, especially for those who played it numerous times since the original launched back in 2006. However, while many may see the screenshots and comparisons and feel like it's hefty, $40 price tag is worth it, it is all a little deceiving. That's because you probably already played Gears of War Reloaded, just like I have, over a decade ago. Of course, back then it was known under a slightly different name, although Xbox isn't really telling anyone that. Gears of War Reloaded is a remaster of a remaster. Gears of War Reloaded promises a huge improvement over the original experience, including enhanced texture, 60 FPS in the campaign, and 120 FPS in the multiplayer modes, support for 4K, and minor gameplay improvements. All of this will make it a markedly different game from the original 2006 release, although I'd argue that it still holds up to this day as one of the best third person shooters ever made and one of Xbox's greatest first party titles. Gears of War defined its generation for a reason and continues to inspire cover shooters to this day. However, as phenomenal a remaster as Gears of War Reloaded looks, it's all a bit of smoke and mirrors. Xbox hasn't lied about any of the tech in Reloaded. It is as good of a remaster as it sounds. I should know, as after all, I've played the remaster that is ostensibly remastering. Reloaded is based on the 2015 Gears of War Ultimate Edition, which enhanced the textures, frame rate, and gameplay features from the original version, ensuring to keep the spirit of the 2006 experience while making it more palatable for the Xbox One generation. This isn't as impressive as Oblivion Remastered, which took the original experience and completely overhauled it. For the most part, Gears of War Reloaded is taking the 2015 remaster and essentially bumping the resolution and frame rate. Sure, that's great for those who particularly bothered about having 60 FPS, but one has to wonder whether the $40 price tag is worth it for such a minor improvement over an already phenomenal experience. Suffice it to say, I don't feel like Xbox has done enough with Gears of War Reloaded. So we're going to keep reading in a second. I just want to point out one thing with this, in my opinion, is none of the really upgrades is the point in for buying this, in my personal opinion, right? The point for me is going to be is that so I played Gears of War when I was younger all the time. If I had to point to one game that was my childhood, it would be Gears of War, the online, especially Gears of War 2, probably my favorite game ever. There's other ones, but that one probably my favorite game ever. And the whole point of wanting it to be kind of remastered in this way is that it gets back into kind of the mainstream, right? It gets back, everybody's talking about it, kind of like Oblivion. This Oblivion remaster, we played it a little bit. I'd played Skyrim, had never played the original Oblivion. Now I feel as if I'm a part a little bit of that community more than I had ever been because they remastered it. I got to play it. It's the same with this, right? When you're bringing it to the PC, when you're bringing this to the PS5, when you're bringing it to all of these different consoles that they haven't been before, when you're also, bringing it back again for the Xbox, and I believe, put in the comments if I'm wrong, I believe there's still going to be the online multiplayer aspect. That's going to get this game back into the mainstream again. So to me, that's the whole point of this. So I understand what he's saying. He's saying, look, this is going to be another $40 price tag for a game that's already kind of been remastered once. But because part of the problem is too with Gears of War is that since it was an Xbox exclusive, Gears of War 2 and Gears of War 1, and I haven't played them in a long time, but it didn't have the staying power necessarily that something like on the PC, like a Counter-Strike, right, where even to this day people are still playing the game. So by bringing it back and remastering it, you're giving it that kind of life again, and that's why I'm so supportive of it, is because I want to see it live on in this way. I want to be able to get on to my computer and play Gears of War and not have to do it, through. Although I think the original Gears might have been it was on Windows PC, wasn't it? So it might not have only been a Xbox exclusive. Well, it was, but I think it might have been even on Windows PC. But the point is that even if there is still a small community, Gears of War Online is not the same it was when Gears of War 2 came out. Okay. And so that's why I'm kind of supportive of this remaster. But let's keep going. Gears of War Reloaded doesn't do enough. Gears of War Reloaded may now be the definitive experience with its higher frame rate, but it seems a shame that Xbox didn't take the 10-year gap between it and Ultimate Edition to do either a full-blown remake or find another reason to remaster the original game. Frankly, that's likely because Ultimate Edition, with its gameplay tweaks that brought it more in line with the later entries, is the perfect remaster. There really is very little more to add to the first Gears of War game that Ultimate Edition hadn't already. What's worse is that Reloaded is getting in the way of potential Gears of War remaster trilogy that has been rumored for a while. It would make sense for Xbox to release a collection of all the games remastered if it's selling the first separately, at least a single 40 to 70 price point. It is more likely that Xbox will release remasters of each game in the series individually, with each one of them costing around 40. That could mean that if Xbox forgoes Judgment, fans are looking at around 120 for the entire trilogy. While 120 may not seem like that much considering Xbox is raising prices of its first-party games to 80, it is still a ridiculous amount for a collection of games you've already played a lot. Gears of War 3 was released all the way back in 2011, nearly 14 years ago. If Xbox releases one remaster a year, it would be nearly 16 years by the time it gets around to Gears 3. 120 for a series that's over 20 years old is obscene, even if they have slightly better visuals and higher frame rates. So once again, this is an argument that's being made that I'm not going to say is wrong. Okay, this is kind of an opinion in my view, but I don't agree with it because I love Gears of War. I like the saddest thing I could think about for me in gaming is the fact that I can't go back to the Xbox 360 and load up Call of Duty 4, Gears of War 2, even Battlefield 3. Like it's like a time in my head, at least a time in gaming that will never return. This is giving it a chance to return. So I don't mind paying for the game again, especially when you are kind of remastering it to nowadays. And I'll tell you this, another way I look at it is you have all these companies. You look at what's going on with Ubisoft and everyone's mad about what they're doing with Assassin's Creed and all of this stuff. These companies are putting out the games that are the big name games. They're putting them out for $70 and nobody likes them, but they buy them because it's all they're giving them. And, nobody's happy with them. Whereas I would rather pay $40 for them to not give me, some new Gears of War game that I don't love the same way I love these, right? I would love for them to bring back Gears of War again and drop the game that I already love and I'm able to play it again. And the hope is that after you do these remasters, is that because, and to be fair, I haven't played the newest Gears as much, and people do seem to like them. It just didn't have, in my opinion at least, the as big of an effect on gaming as these did, right? Like these Gears of War 2, I mean, everybody was playing that, and so that's why I don't have a problem with it. I think when people go back and they remaster, they realize, oh my God, these gaming companies realize, wow, people loved what we were doing here. Let's go ahead and if we make a new game, let's kind of draw from that. And it gets people back into the series. So would I prefer, a company to charge me $40 for a game that's 20 years old or 16 years old that I know I'm going to like and that's going to get people playing it and I'm going to be able to have another couple years of fun from it? Or would I prefer them just to put out something that's not really good and new? I'll take this any day of the week. Okay, Gears of War Reloaded will appeal to PS5 users. Of course, Gears of War Reloaded isn't aimed at fans like me or you, or likely you, those of us who played the entire series on Xbox or PC all those years ago. Rather, is part of Xbox strategy to port its library of classics to PlayStation to both increase revenue and establish a precedent for releasing newer entries on the platform too. It makes sense, especially considering Xbox's shift to taking on more of a publisher role than competing in the console wars that have been losing relevancy and importance since the Xbox One released. Reloaded is a PlayStation game first and foremost in an attempt to gauge how interested in the franchise PS5 fans are. I'm under no illusion that Gears of War Reloaded was intended for the likes of me and you, so long as you're not a PlayStation exclusive user, and that's fine. Frankly, I'm glad more people get to play Gears of War, especially this version of it. While the original game was great, the Ultimate Edition's changes make it truly exceptional, making it an even better way of getting into this beloved and iconic series. So I want to, I'll finish it up in a second, but I want to stop here for 1 second. I also disagree with this, slightly, right? Certainly it's being made for people that haven't played it yet. Okay, I get that. But it's going to appeal to me too, right? Someone who's been playing these Gears of War games. The first one will, the second one will, and the third one will. It will be like a trip down memory lane again, and seeing others play it for the first time. That's for me. And I think what people miss is that when we talk about the Xbox and why it's losing the console wars, Gears of War is one of the reasons it was winning the console wars. One of the reasons the Xbox 360 was kicking butt the way it was simply because it had nothing to do with hardware or this or that. It had to do with one thing. The Xbox had some fantastic, fantastic, fantastic games. Gears of War and Halo are the two that come to mind, and both Halo 3 and Gears of War 2 to me were they were the pinnacle, right? And that was the reason Xbox has ended up losing the console war is because after the Xbox 360 generation, they moved on and they were focusing on everything but games. Now I guess they're getting back to that with Game Pass and other things, but they were focusing on everything but games. Let's make this, your home entertainment console. Let's worry about getting Netflix and everything else on there, which I'm not against having Netflix on there. But the point is that games like Gears of War were the reason. And yes, they still continue to make Gears of War games. And yes, I understand that a lot of people still like them and the reviews are still high. But I'm just pointing out that they didn't have the cultural relevance that, initially we saw, right? We initially saw like Gears of War 2, even just going on YouTube, right? The amount of people that used to put up YouTube videos for Call of Duty 4, Halo, and Gears of War, there was a ton. And then after that, it kind of fell off a little bit as it pertained to um, Gears of War, in my personal opinion. So I think it's a little bit more than just because the PS5 users are going to be the ones getting it for the first time doesn't mean there's nothing there for people who've haven't played it before. With E-Day's release date around the corner, it's time to bring Gears of War to PlayStation fans and get them ready for the torment that lies ahead. I'm excited to jump back into Gears of War after its long hiatus, and Reloaded will help with that, especially as it will be completely free for me. It's undeniable that we've all played Gears of War Reloaded over a decade ago, and it's a shame Xbox didn't do more, but at least a new cohort of people will soon understand our devastation every time we hear Mad World. So yeah, I think this was a well-written article because, like I said, I can't disagree with anything that's in the article. Okay, I just think it's a personal preference, right? Like, what are you willing to pay for one of these older games coming out? And I just think I would much prefer, you know, get Gears of War going again. Even if Gears of War, and I've looked at a lot of the reviews on the newer ones, if everybody thinks these games are good, and yet it's not, it's not kind of having the same relevancy that it once had, well, then we got to find a way to make that happen. And I think this is a perfect way to do it, right? If you're able to go ahead and get people talking about, like, if Gears of War comes out and it has, 75% of kind of the viral nature that this Oblivion remaster did, it's going to light a fire under the series in a big way and get people playing again. And we're going to be able to live through as they release, like he's saying, hey, maybe they're going to do all three back to back to back. That would be phenomenal. That would be beautiful. And, I'm willing to pay the money for it if that's the case. So thank you all for watching, and we'll see you next time.